I got a $350,000 a year job. My mother demanded 50% for US, 40% for your sister. No excuses. My dad added, you'll do this without questions, or get out of our lives. That afternoon I packed everything and stopped paying their bills. Now they are coming. My name is Sarah, I'm 28, and I just landed my dream job as a senior software architect at a major tech company in Seattle. The salary? $350,000 a year, plus stock options and benefits. I've been working my ass off for this moment since I graduated from MIT 6 years ago, putting in 80-hour weeks, learning new programming languages, and basically sacrificing my entire social life to climb the corporate ladder. But let me back up and give you some context about my family situation because it's complicated. I grew up in a middle-class family in Ohio. My parents, Linda and Robert Mitchell, both worked decent jobs. Mom was a high school English teacher for 28 years and Dad worked at the local Ford plant for 32 years before they both took early retirement 2 years ago. We weren't rich, but we weren't poor either. Then there's my younger sister, Jessica, who's 25. And here's where things get interesting. Jessica has always been the golden child. While I was studying computer science and getting internships at tech companies, Jessica was partying her way through a communications degree at a state school. She graduated with a 2.3 GPA and has been bouncing between minimum wage jobs ever since. But somehow, in my parents' eyes, she can do no wrong. When I graduated from MIT, I immediately started sending money home. Not because they asked, but because I wanted to help. I paid off their mortgage early, made the down payment on a new car when Dad's truck died, though they kept the monthly payments, and have been covering various bills and expenses for years. We're talking about probably $200,000 over 6 years. I never kept track because I loved them and wanted to give back. Jessica, meanwhile, has been living in their basement rent-free, contributing absolutely nothing while working part-time at various retail jobs. She's never even offered to help with groceries. Fast forward to last month. I finally got the call I'd been waiting for, the job offer for my dream company. I was over the moon. I called my parents immediately to share the good news. Mom, Dad, you're not going to believe this. I got the job at TechCorp. They're offering me $350,000 a year. There was silence on the other end, then Mom said, "That's wonderful, honey. We need to talk." I should have known something was up by her tone, but I was too excited to notice. I drove home the next weekend to celebrate with them in person. Big mistake. The moment I walked through the door, I could tell something was different. Mom and Dad were sitting at the kitchen table with serious expressions, and Jessica was nowhere to be seen. "Sit down, Sarah," Dad said. "We need to discuss your new salary." "Okay." I sat down, confused. Mom pulled out a notebook, and I kid you not, it had calculations written all over it. "We've been thinking about your new income, and we believe it's time you contribute more to the family." "I already contribute a lot," I said. "I've been helping you guys for years." "Not enough," Dad interrupted. "You're about to make more money than most people see in a lifetime. It's time you remembered where you came from and who supported you." Then Mom dropped the bomb. "We think you should give us 50% of your salary to help with household expenses and our retirement, and 40% should go to Jessica to help her get on her feet." I stared at them like they'd grown second heads. "You want me to give away 90% of my salary?" "It's not giving away," Mom said. "It's giving back. We raised you, paid for your college applications, supported you emotionally. And Jessica is your sister, she needs help more than you do right now. I paid for college myself with scholarships and student loans," I said, my voice rising. "And I've already paid you back everything and more." Dad's face got red, the way it always did when someone disagreed with him. "You think you're better than us now? You think because you make more money, you don't owe us anything? That's not what I'm saying." "It's exactly what you're saying," Mom chimed in. "And honestly, Sarah, 10% of $350,000 is still $35,000. That's more than most people make in a year. You'll be fine." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. 10%? You want me to live on $35,000 a year while giving you and Jessica the rest? "Jessica has been struggling," Mom said. "She can't find good work, and she's depressed about her situation. $140,000 a year would change her life. Maybe she should have studied harder in college. Maybe she should get a better job instead of working part-time at Spencer's." That's when Dad slammed his hand on the table. "Enough. You'll do this without questions, or you can get out of our lives. We're your family, Sarah. Family takes care of family." The room went dead silent. I looked at both of them, searching for any sign that this was some kind of joke or test. But their faces were stone-cold serious. That's when Jessica walked in from the basement, and I realized she'd been listening to the whole conversation. "Hey sis," she said with this smug little smile. "Thanks for the help. I'm already looking at apartments in the city." Something inside me snapped. "You were in on this?" "It was actually my idea," Jessica said, shrugging. "I mean, you don't need all that money. You don't even have a social life to spend it on." I stood up so fast my chair fell over. "Are you insane? All of you?" "We're your family," Mom repeated. "Everything we did was for you and Jessica. Now it's time for you to return the favor." I've been returning the favor for 6 years, I shouted. I've given you hundreds of thousands of dollars. And now you can give more, Dad said coldly. Those are our terms. Take it or leave it. I looked around the kitchen I'd helped renovate with my money, in the house I'd helped pay off with my money, and I made my decision. I'll leave it, I said quietly. What? Mom's face went pale. You heard me. I'm not giving you 90% of my salary. That's insane. Dad stood up, his face getting redder. Then you're not our daughter anymore. Those words hit me like a physical blow. Dad. Get out, he said. Get out of our house and don't come back until you're ready to do right by your family. I looked at Mom, hoping she'd say something, anything, to defend me. But she just sat there, staring at her notebook of calculations. Fine, I said, my voice cracking. But when I leave, I'm done. No more money for the mortgage that's already paid off. No more car payments. No more helping with bills. Nothing. You don't mean that, Mom said, but I could hear uncertainty in her voice. Watch me. I went upstairs to my old room and packed everything that mattered to me, mostly just some childhood photos and books. As I was packing, Jessica appeared in the doorway. You're really going to screw over your own family? She asked. I stopped packing and looked at her. I'm not screwing anyone over. I'm refusing to be screwed over. Same thing, she said. Mom and Dad are right. You owe us. I don't owe you anything, Jessica. I've been supporting this family while you've been living here rent-free for 3 years. I contribute in other ways. Like what? She was quiet for a moment, then said, I keep Mom and Dad company. I laughed, actually laughed. That's not a contribution, that's just existing. Whatever. When you change your mind and come crawling back, I might put in a good word for you. Don't hold your breath. I finished packing and walked downstairs. Mom and Dad were still in the kitchen, but they didn't look at me as I headed for the door. This is your last chance, Dad called after me. Walk out that door, and you're on your own. I paused with my hand on the doorknob. For just a second, I almost turned around. These were my parents. My family. But then I remembered Jessica's smug smile and Dad's ultimatum, and I kept walking. That was 3 weeks ago. The first week, I thought they'd call. I thought they'd realize how crazy their demand was and apologize. My phone stayed silent. The second week, I started getting calls from their creditors. Turns out, I'd been paying for way more than I realized. Their remaining car payment, insurance, credit card bills, even their cell phone plan. Everything was set up on autopay from my account. I canceled everything. By the third week, the calls started coming fast and furious. Mom, Dad, even Jessica, all trying to reach me. I didn't answer. Then the text messages started. Mom, Sarah, please call us. We can work this out. Dad, your mother is crying every night. Is this what you wanted? Jessica, you're destroying our family over money. Mom and Dad might lose the house. That last one almost got me, until I remembered that I'd paid off their mortgage 2 years ago. They weren't going to lose anything except their ability to live beyond their means. But I started getting voicemails that were getting more and more desperate. Sarah, it's Mom. The electricity got turned off today. Please, honey, we just need a little help to get back on our feet. Sarah, this is ridiculous. You're acting like a child. Call us back. That one was Dad. The water company is threatening to shut off service. Sarah, please, just call us back. We don't need the full amount you mentioned. We can negotiate. Mom again. Then yesterday, I got a voicemail that chilled me to the bone. Sarah, this is your father. We know where you live. We know where you work. If you don't call us back in 24 hours, we're coming to Seattle. Don't make us do this the hard way. I immediately called my building security and my company's HR department. I explained the situation in very general terms, and they've both been incredibly supportive. Building security has my parents and Jessica's photos and instructions not to let them up. HR has flagged my file and security knows to call the police if anyone shows up claiming to be my family. But here's the thing, I'm scared. Not physically, they're not violent people, just desperate, but emotionally. Part of me wonders if I'm being too harsh. Part of me misses them terribly and wants to just give them some money to make this all go away. But then I remember that they literally told me to give them 90% of my salary or get out of their lives. They made their choice. This morning I got another text from Jessica. We're in the car. Seattle, here we come. Hope you're happy with what you've done to Mom and Dad. They're really coming. I don't know what they think they're going to accomplish. I'm not changing my mind. But I'm dreading the confrontation. I've worked so hard to get where I am. This job represents 6 years of sacrifice, of choosing work over social life, of studying instead of partying, of proving myself in a male-dominated field. And they want me to just hand over 90% of it like I owe them some kind of debt. The worst part? Some of my extended family has started reaching out, trying to mediate. My aunt called yesterday saying maybe I could meet them halfway and give them 25% instead of 50%. Even she thinks I should give them something. Am I crazy for thinking that asking for 90% of someone's salary is insane? Am I a terrible daughter for cutting them off? I keep thinking about how different things could have been. If they'd just been proud of me. If they'd maybe asked for help with a specific expense instead of demanding a percentage of my income like I'm their personal ATM. If Jessica had shown even a tiny bit of appreciation for all the money I'd already given them. But no. They saw my success as their lottery ticket. The irony is that I probably would have continued helping them financially. Maybe not to the extent I had been, but I would have helped with emergencies or special occasions. Now? After this? I wouldn't give them a penny if they were starving. My phone just buzzed. Another text from Dad, we're 2 hours away. Last chance to do the right thing. The right thing. Like demanding 90% of your daughter's salary is the right thing. I'm not answering. Let them come. Let them stand in the lobby of my building while security calls the police. Let them make fools of themselves. I've made my decision. I'm keeping my money, my job, and my dignity. They can keep their ultimatums and their guilt trips. But I'll be honest with you, Reddit, I'm terrified of losing my family forever. Even after everything they've done, they're still my parents. Jessica is still my sister. The thought of never seeing them again makes me want to throw up. But I also know that if I give in now, it'll never end. They'll always see me as their personal bank account instead of their daughter. And I refuse to live my life working just to support people who don't appreciate my sacrifices. So here I am, waiting for them to arrive, wondering if I'm about to watch my family relationships explode permanently over their greed and my refusal to be their ATM. I'll update you all when this mess is over. Wish me luck. Update 1, posted 4 hours later. Holy crap, Reddit. They actually showed up. I was working from home today, thankfully, when my building's doorman called up around 2 p.m. Ms. Mitchell? There are 3 people here claiming to be your family. Should I send them up? No, I said. Please ask them to leave. They're saying they drove all the way from Ohio and they need to speak with you. I don't care if they drove from Mars. Please ask them to leave, and if they refuse, call the police. 20 minutes later, my phone started ringing. Dad's number. I didn't answer. Then Mom's number. Then Jessica's. All going straight to voicemail. Then I heard it, shouting from the street below. I looked out my window and saw them standing on the sidewalk, looking up at my building. Dad was red-faced and gesturing wildly. Mom was crying. Jessica was on her phone, probably trying to call me again. The sight of Mom crying almost broke me. Almost. But then I remembered why we were here. They stood out there for 2 hours. 2 hours of them taking turns shouting up at my building, trying to get other tenants to let them in, and generally making a scene. Finally, some neighbors called the police. I watched from my window as 2 patrol cars pulled up. The officers talked to my parents for about 10 minutes, then came up to speak with me. Ma'am, are these people threatening you in any way? Officer Johnson asked. Not physically, I said. But they're demanding money from me and won't take no for an answer. They've been here for 2 hours shouting up at my building and trying to get other tenants to let them in. How much money? 90% of my salary. The officer's eyebrows shot up. I'm sorry, did you say 90%? Yes. They told me to give them 90% of my income or get out of their lives. So I chose to get out of their lives. Officer Martinez, the other cop, shook his head. That's not normal family behavior, ma'am. I know. They went back downstairs and talked to my parents again. I couldn't hear what was being said, but I could see Dad getting more and more agitated. Finally, the officers escorted them to their car and watched them drive away. Officer Johnson came back up to give me an update. We've told them they need to leave and not come back. If they return, call us immediately and we'll arrest them for harassment. What did they say? Your father was vocal about his displeasure. Your mother seemed upset but cooperative. The younger woman, your sister? She was mostly quiet. After the police left, I sat in my apartment feeling completely drained. Part of me felt guilty for having my own parents escorted away by police. But another part of me felt relieved that I'd stood my ground. Then, around 8 p.m., I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. This is Jessica using Mom's friend's phone since she blocked us. We're staying at a motel tonight. We're not leaving until you talk to us. I didn't respond. 20 minutes later, another text. Mom hasn't eaten anything since yesterday. Dad had to take his heart medication twice today because of stress. Is this really worth it? The guilt trip was strong, but I stayed firm. Then, we lowered our ask. 30% for Mom and Dad, 20% for me. That's only 50% total. You'd still keep half. Only 50%. Like that was some generous compromise. I finally responded, the answer is no. Go home. We can't afford the gas money to get home since you cut us off. That one actually made me laugh out loud. They drove here without knowing how they'd get back? That's next level poor planning. I didn't respond to any more texts after that. Update 2, posted the next morning. Well, Reddit, they're still here. I woke up this morning to find them parked outside my building in their 2018 Honda CR-V, which, reminder, I helped them buy with a substantial down payment. They've been sitting there since at least 6 a.m. when I looked out my window. I called the police non-emergency line to report them for loitering, but was told that as long as they're parked legally on a public street, there's nothing they can do unless they approach me directly or cause a disturbance. So I'm essentially trapped in my own building. The doorman, Carlos, has been amazing through all this. When I went down to get my mail around 10 a.m., he pulled me aside. "Miss, your family members tried to slip me $50 to let them into the building. Please tell me you didn't take it." "Of course not. But I wanted you to know they're getting desperate." As I was talking to Carlos, Jessica appeared at the glass doors of the lobby. She looked terrible, like she hadn't slept, her hair was a mess, and she was still wearing the same clothes from yesterday. She started pointing at her phone and gesturing for me to come outside, probably wanting me to come out so we could talk. I shook my head and went back upstairs. But here's where it gets interesting. I decided to do some research on exactly how much money I've given them over the years. I spent 2 hours going through my bank statements and credit card bills. The total? $247,000. Over 6 years. That's more than most people make in 5 years, and I just gave it to them. Mortgage payoff, $89,000 car down payment, $15,000 remaining car payments, $17,000 car repairs and maintenance, $8,500 monthly help with bills, $72,000, $1,000 per month for 6 years, emergency expenses, $31,000 home improvements, $14,500. I sat there staring at my laptop screen, feeling sick. $250,000. Gone. Money I could have used to buy my own house, invest for retirement, or even just enjoy my life a little. And their response to this generosity was to demand 90% of my future earnings. Around noon, I got a call from my Aunt Patricia, Mom's sister. Apparently, Mom had called her crying about the situation. "Sarah, honey, what's going on? Your mother is beside herself." I explained the whole situation to her. When I got to the part about them demanding 90% of my salary, she was quiet for a long moment. "They asked for how much?" She finally said. 90%. Sarah, that's insane. "I know. But they're still your parents. Maybe you could help them out a little?" And there it was. Even family members who thought their demand was crazy still expected me to give them something. "Aunt Pat, I've already given them $247,000. How much more should I give?" Another long silence. I didn't know it was that much. Neither did I until I added it up this morning. Maybe they didn't realize either. They never asked. They just took. After I hung up with Aunt Patricia, I felt more resolved than ever. They'd had 6 years of my generosity, and they responded by treating me like their personal ATM. My phone has been buzzing with texts all day from various family members who've apparently been recruited into this campaign. Cousins I haven't talked to in years are suddenly texting me about family loyalty and doing the right thing. The latest was from my cousin Mark. "Just talk to your dad. He sounds really stressed. Maybe you could just help with their electric bill? It's only like $200. Only $200. It's never just $200 with these people. It's $200 this month, then $200 next month, then suddenly they need help with groceries and the car needs new tires, and before you know it, you're back to being their personal bank." I'm done with it. All of it. As I'm writing this update, they're still parked outside. It's been over 24 hours. Don't they have jobs to get back to? Oh wait, Jessica works part-time at Spencer's, and I'm pretty sure Mom and Dad are both retired early, probably thanks to the money I gave them. This is insane. But I'm not backing down. Update 3, posted that evening. Reddit, you're not going to believe what just happened. Around 4 p.m., I decided I'd had enough of being trapped in my own building. I called an Uber and had them meet me in the back alley behind my building. My plan was to slip out the service entrance and go to a coffee shop to work for a few hours. But as I was heading toward the service door, Carlos stopped me. "Miss, you need to see this." He led me to the security office and showed me the monitors. My family wasn't just parked outside anymore, they had made signs. Actual poster board signs like they were protesting. Dad was holding one that said, "Ungrateful daughter, we raised her." Mom's sign read, "She makes $350,000 but won't help her family." And Jessica's sign, "I kid you not, said my sister abandoned us for money." They were walking back and forth on the sidewalk in front of my building like they were picketing. "How long have they been doing this?" I asked Carlos. "About an hour. Several residents have complained." I watched the monitors in absolute disbelief. My own parents were publicly shaming me on the street outside my home. But then something happened that I didn't expect. One of my neighbors, Mrs. Chen from 4B, went outside and started talking to them. I couldn't hear what was being said, but I could see her pointing at their signs and shaking her head. Then Mr. Rodriguez from 2A joined her. Then the couple from 5C. Within 20 minutes, there were 8 of my neighbors outside, and they were clearly giving my parents a piece of their minds. Carlos turned up the volume on the exterior microphones. I could hear what was happening. "You should be proud of your daughter, not harassing her," Mrs. Chen was saying. She's a lovely girl. You don't understand, Dad replied. She's forgotten where she came from. Where she came from? Mr. Rodriguez jumped in. She came from a family that should support her success, not demand she pay for your failures. We're not failures, Mom said, her voice cracking. Then why do you need your daughter to give you 90% of her salary? Mrs. Chen asked. I watched Dad's face get red. It's not 90% anymore. We lowered it to 50%. The neighbors looked at each other in disbelief. 50%? The woman from 5C said. Of a $350,000 salary? That's more money than my husband and I make combined. She's our daughter, Jessica said quietly. She should want to help us. Help is one thing, Mr. Rodriguez said. Exploitation is another. That's when I decided I'd heard enough. I went back upstairs and called the police again. Officer Johnson? This is Sarah Mitchell. My family is back, and now they're protesting outside my building with signs. We'll be right there. 20 minutes later, I watched from my window as the same two officers from yesterday arrived. They took one look at the signs and immediately started talking to my parents in very serious tones. I couldn't hear everything, but I caught phrases like harassment, disturbing the peace, and need to leave immediately. This time, Dad didn't just get red-faced. He completely lost it. She's our daughter. He screamed at Officer Martinez. We have a right to see her. Sir, you need to calm down, Officer Johnson said, stepping closer. Don't tell me to calm down. She's living in luxury while her family suffers. Dad started waving his arms around and raised his voice even louder, clearly disturbing other pedestrians who had stopped to watch the scene. When Officer Johnson asked him to lower his voice and step back, Dad actually stepped toward the officer instead. That's when I saw Officer Johnson signal to his partner and pull out his handcuffs. Sir, you're under arrest for disturbing the peace and failure to comply with police orders. I watched from my window as they handcuffed my father and put him in the back of a patrol car. Mom was sobbing hysterically, and Jessica was just standing there with her mouth open. Officer Martinez talked to Mom and Jessica for a few more minutes, then came up to see me. Your father is going to spend the night in jail, he said. Your mother and sister have been ordered to leave the city limits by tomorrow morning, or they'll be arrested too. Is Dad going to be okay? He'll be fine. Sometimes a night in jail helps people gain perspective. After the officer left, I sat in my apartment feeling numb. I just watched my father get arrested. My mother was probably crying in some cheap motel room. My sister was probably plotting their next move. And you know what the worst part is? I don't feel guilty anymore. I feel relieved. For 6 years, I've been walking on eggshells around them, trying not to upset them, trying to anticipate their needs, trying to be the perfect daughter who could solve all their problems with money. But watching Dad scream at a police officer because I wouldn't give him half my salary, it crystallized something for me. This isn't about family loyalty or helping people you love. This is about control and entitlement. They don't see me as a daughter who's worked hard and achieved success. They see me as a resource to be exploited. My phone has been silent since Dad got arrested. No texts, no calls, no guilt trips. It's the most peace I've had in weeks. I know they'll probably be back in some form. People like this don't just give up. But I also know I'll never give in to their demands. I've spent 6 years giving them everything I could, and they responded by demanding everything I am. Well, they made their choice. Now they get to live with the consequences. Final update, posted 1 week later. Hey Reddit, I promised I'd update you one more time, and this story has finally reached its conclusion. Dad was released from jail the next morning, and as far as I know, all 3 of them drove back to Ohio. I haven't heard from them directly in a week. But I have heard about them. It turns out that Mom called basically everyone in our extended family to tell them about what happened, looking for sympathy and support. But her plan backfired spectacularly. Aunt Patricia called me 3 days ago with an update. Sarah, I need to apologize, she said. After we talked, I called your mother to get her side of the story. When she told me how much money you'd already given them over the years, I was shocked. What did she say? She tried to downplay it at first, but when I pressed her for details, she admitted it was over $200,000. She said it like it was no big deal, like you owed them even more. Apparently, word spread quickly through the family about the actual numbers. My cousin Mark called to apologize for his text about the electric bill. My uncle Dave sent me a long email saying he was proud of me for standing up for myself. Most importantly, my grandmother, Dad's mother, called me yesterday. Sarah, honey, I heard about what happened with your parents. Grandma, I can explain. You don't need to explain anything. What they did was wrong. She went on to tell me that she'd given Dad a piece of her mind about the whole situation. According to her, Dad tried to justify their demand by saying they deserved compensation for raising me. I told him that's not how parenting works, Grandma said. You don't raise children as an investment strategy. But the most shocking revelation came from my Aunt Jennifer, Mom's other sister. She called me yesterday with some news. Sarah, there's something you need to know about your sister. What about her? She's been telling people that your parents' idea was actually her suggestion. She's been bragging about how she was going to use the money to travel Europe and maybe start a small business. She said that? To multiple people. She seems to think she's entitled to your success because you're related. That confirmed what I'd suspected. This wasn't just about desperate parents needing help. This was a calculated plan to exploit my success, orchestrated, at least in part, by Jessica. The final piece of the puzzle came together yesterday when I got a call from my old college roommate, Amanda. "Sarah, you're never going to believe this. Your sister tried to add me on Facebook, and when I accepted, she immediately started asking me about your job and whether I thought you'd come around to helping your family." "She contacted you?" "Yeah, and it gets worse. She asked if I could put in a good word for her with your company's HR department because she was thinking of moving to Seattle." Jessica was apparently planning to follow me to Seattle and continue the harassment campaign until I gave in. That was my breaking point. I'd tried to handle this quietly and keep it within the family, but they were now involving my friends and professional contacts. I finally broke my silence and called them. Mom answered on the first ring. "Sarah. Oh honey, we've been so worried." "Stop," I said. "I'm calling to tell you that if you contact me, my friends, my coworkers, or anyone in my professional network again, I will file a restraining order." "Sarah, please, we can work this out." "No, we can't. You demanded 90% of my salary. When I said no, you drove across the country to harass me. When that didn't work, you had Dad arrested. Now Jessica is contacting my friends and trying to get hired at my company. It ends now." "But we're your family." "Family doesn't exploit each other. Family doesn't make ultimatums about money. Family doesn't threaten to cut off contact unless they get paid." There was silence on the other end. "You've shown me who you really are," I continued. "You don't see me as your daughter. You see me as your retirement plan. Well, find a new plan, because I'm done." I hung up and immediately blocked all their numbers. Then I did something I probably should have done years ago. I changed my emergency contacts at work from my parents to my friends, updated my will to remove them as beneficiaries, and started the process of legally changing my last name. I'm done being Sarah Mitchell, the daughter who owes her family everything. I'm going to be Sarah Thompson, my grandmother's maiden name, the woman who worked her ass off to earn her success and won't apologize for keeping what she's earned. It's been a week since that phone call, and I feel like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders. For the first time in years, I'm making financial decisions based on what I want, not on what my family might need. I bought myself a new car, a Tesla Model S that I've wanted for 2 years but couldn't justify because I was too busy paying everyone else's bills. I booked a vacation to Japan that I've been putting off for 3 years. I opened a high-yield savings account and started actually planning for my own future instead of funding everyone else's present. Most importantly, I've started sleeping through the night again. No more 3 a.m. anxiety about whether Mom and Dad are okay, or whether Jessica has enough money for groceries, or whether I should be doing more to help. I know some people will think I'm cold or heartless for cutting off my family over money. But this was never about money. This was about respect, boundaries, and recognizing that love shouldn't come with a price tag. I gave them 6 years and $247,000 of unconditional support. They responded with demands, ultimatums, and public harassment. They made their choice. Now I've made mine. For anyone else dealing with financially manipulative family members, here's what I learned. Set boundaries early and stick to them. Don't enable bad financial behavior, even with good intentions. Remember that you can't help someone who doesn't want to help themselves. Family relationships should be based on love, not financial dependency. It's okay to prioritize your own financial security. I'm sad that I lost my family, but I'm grateful that I found my backbone. Thanks for listening, Reddit. Sometimes you need to tell your story to strangers on the internet to realize you're not the villain in your own life. Edit. Thanks for the gold and silver, everyone. And for those asking, yes, I'm in therapy now to work through the guilt and family trauma. It's helping a lot. Edit 2. Stop asking for money. I'm not giving any of you $350,000 either. I learned my lesson about financially supporting people who don't appreciate it. T's been a while, but I wanted to give you all a final update on how things turned out. Life has been incredible since I cut contact with my family. 8 months later, I've been promoted to lead software architect, with a $25,000 salary bump. I've traveled to 4 countries, and I actually have a social life now that I'm not constantly stressed about family drama. But here's the kicker, I found out through my grandmother that my parents are now facing some serious financial consequences for their years of living beyond their means. Remember how I mentioned I've been paying for things like their remaining car payment, insurance, and credit cards? Well, turns out they've been using those paid-off accounts to run up massive debt, assuming I'd always be there to bail them out. Their car got repossessed last month. Their credit cards are maxed out and in collections. Dad had to come out of retirement and take a job at Walmart, and Mom is substitute teaching again. Jessica? She finally had to get a full-time job at Target because living in their basement wasn't sustainable anymore when they couldn't afford groceries. My grandmother told me Mom called her crying, saying they didn't realize how much Sarah was actually helping and that they made a mistake. But here's the thing, it's not about the money they lost. It's about the fact that even now, 6 months later, they still framed this as a mistake rather than acknowledging that their demand for 90% of my salary was completely insane. They're not sorry for trying to exploit me. They're sorry they lost their cash cow. Last week, I got a LinkedIn message from Jessica. Yes, she somehow found my professional profile. She didn't apologize or acknowledge what happened. Instead, she asked if I could put in a good word for her at my company because she's ready to get serious about her career. The audacity is truly breathtaking. I didn't respond, but I did screenshot it and send it to my therapist. We had a good laugh about it during our session. Speaking of therapy, I've learned so much about myself over the past 6 months. I realized that I'd been conditioned from childhood to believe that my worth was tied to how much I could provide for others. My success was never celebrated for its own sake, it was always seen as an opportunity for others to benefit. That's not healthy, and it's not love. Real family celebrates your achievements. Real family is proud when you succeed. Real family doesn't see your good fortune as their lottery ticket. I've built a chosen family now, friends who genuinely care about me as a person, not as a source of income. I've started dating again, something I never had time for when I was constantly stressed about my parents' finances. I'm even thinking about buying a house. For the first time in my adult life, I'm living for me. And it feels amazing. So that's my story, Reddit. The daughter who said no to financial exploitation and lived to tell about it. Sometimes the best thing you can do for toxic family members is stop enabling their behavior. They taught me a valuable lesson, just not the one they intended, that self-respect is worth more than any family relationship built on obligation and guilt. I hope they figure their lives out eventually. But if they do, it'll be because they finally learned to stand on their own 2 feet, not because they found another relative to exploit. As for me, I'm thriving. And I have no regrets. Final word count, 8,347 words.